Hello and welcome to the One Life Church devotional series where we cover the entire Bible in 20 months. If you'd like to join us on this journey, what you can do is subscribe on the website below and we will send you a video 5 o'clock every morning to help you go through the Bible in 20 months. Well, today's chapters are Numbers chapter 15 and Matthew 20. Numbers 15, we're looking at sacrifices again and how to make up for the things that you've done wrong. But there's a story in there about a man who was caught collecting firewood on the Sabbath. And the result was that he was murdered. He was executed for his breaking of the Sabbath. And you look at that and you think, man, that is hectic. Yeah, well, the Bible describes the law as being right. The law as being holy. But boy, was it imposing? Was it demanding? Was it hectic? In Romans chapter 7, the law is likened to an overbearing husband. A husband that's always right, never wrong, supervising, controlling your life. And what Paul says there in Romans is that now it's like that husband has been put to death because we're living in a new, liberated covenant where we're no longer under the supervision of that perfect, onerous, law-abiding husband, the law, the old covenant. No, we married now to Jesus, who is liberating and free, and it helps us fulfill the law. Well, Matthew chapter 20 is a situation where Jesus tells a story about a man going into the middle of town to hire labor. Now, I am sitting in front of the famous Thistle Hotel. If you've been to Maritzburg for more than 20, 30, 40 years, you'll know this is an institution. And outside of the Thistle, you'll see a whole lot of men who are waiting to be employed. Now, the thing is, this queue is massive, and you'll see men running when buckies arrive, when trucks arrive. But around about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there's hardly anybody sitting here. And the reason being that they hold little hope then for being employed on that day. So Jesus tells a fascinating story. He says a man did exactly that. He went to the middle of town to go and hire somebody. He did so early in the morning. He said, I'll pay you a denarii for your work. Then he did it again at 12 o'clock. Then he did it again at 3 o'clock. And then he did it again at 5 o'clock. And when the time came for paying the labor, he lined them all up. And lo and behold, he paid the same amount to those who were employed early in the morning and those at 5 o'clock. And those early in the morning said, hey, listen, we've shouldered the labor all day. And now you're paying these last guys the same as us. This is just not fair. These guys, I think, would agree. I mean, they wouldn't even be sitting here at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. They would, because this is not natural for people to do that. You pay somebody for what he's done. And so what does this tell us? Because Jesus says this is what the kingdom is like. So what really is the kingdom like then? Well, what we can see from this is that certainly it doesn't mean that everybody in heaven is going to receive the exact same reward. No, the Bible is very clear about that. There's varying degrees of reward. The other thing that's very clear from the story is the way that God rewards will be a surprise. Most of us are thinking that Billy Graham, Mother Teresa, and some really saintly type people are going to get huge rewards in heaven. I think we're going to be in for some big surprises. The other thing that we get from this is that God is generous. God is generous. In fact, when Jesus answers the question here, he says, why are you offended? Are you offended at my generosity? It's not your business if I am going to pay somebody for only working 1 hour the same as what I pay you. It's none of your business at all. God is incredibly generous. So as we wrap up this story, I suppose the challenge that I would like to leave you is that if you feel like you've really in the twilight years of your life and you've like wasted a lot of your life, God still is able to reward you and do so generously. In fact, that's his nature. Look at the criminal on the cross next to Jesus. At the 11th hour, he gets saved. He says, you're going to spend paradise with me. That's God's nature. God's nature is one of wanting to reward according to his generosity, according to his nature, rather than according to the works that we have done. The chapter closes with the disciples wrestling about, a position next to Jesus in their kingdom. Jesus had already said here that he's going to be crucified and raised from the dead on the third day, and the disciples just didn't get that. For some reason, they just didn't get it. And the reason they didn't get it is they thought that he was going to usher in his kingdom on earth, that there was going to be a massive, world-leading state developed there in Israel, and they were going to be like the prime minister and the other one the deputy prime minister. Whereas Jesus doesn't march to our tune. He doesn't live by our rules. First he was going to be crucified, then he was going to be glorified. And the story ends with him speaking about greatness and saying, listen, greatness is not defined in human terms. Jesus is in charge of that. He's in charge of reward. He's in charge of your future. I trust that you read this chapter. God challenges you and blesses you.